This November, question 1 will ask voters whether to change the state constitution.
Question 1, otherwise known as Marsy's Law, says the whole goal is to give victims of crime equal rights to their attackers. Opponents say it's unconstitutional and say it's been a disaster in other states. Fox 5's Cindy Lundeberg walks us through the pros and cons of the ballot measure.
Marsy's Law gets its name from Marsy Nicholas. This is her right here. Marsy was murdered by an ex-boyfriend in 1983. The Nicholas family says they were at the store after the murder and were then confronted and harassed by their daughter's killer. They didn't know that he had posted bond and was out. So that began their mission to make sure that didn't happen to anyone else ever again.
I was a victim of domestic violence. I dated my ex-boyfriend for 3 years.
Angelica Lopez remembers when she first started dating her ex-boyfriend. He was a professional fighter. She was in love. But that happiness quickly turned to horror.
To think that I would be alive is... Sorry. I didn't think I was going to cry.
Angelica says the abuse began slow with controlling behavior, then escalated to pushing and rape. She says he lit her clothes on fire and then tried to murder her. Her ex was charged with 22 felony counts, including strangulation. For 3 years, she worked to get her ex in prison. It was hard and frustrating.
My case had 17 vacated court dates, and why that would even be allowed is absolutely beyond me. I work in commercial real estate, so I do have the ability to design my own schedule. So every time that I did receive a subpoena, I was able to rearrange my schedule. What does the person who has an hourly 9-to-5 job that works for minimum wage, what do they do?
That's why Angelica is a supporter of Question 1 Marsy's Law. For Angelica, Marsy's Law would have helped her get a speedier trial. A timely trial is just one of the 17 expanded rights for victims under Question 1.
We're opposing Question 1, Marsy's Law.
The ACLU says they feel for victims of any crime, but say this law would be unconstitutional. Their primary concern is for the people accused of these crimes. Marsy's Law defines a victim as anyone in the proximity of a crime, even a witness. And the law would allow these victims to give their opinions before a person is even found guilty.
So someone could, run a stop sign, can now say that you're a victim in a crime. And so now you're entitled to show up to every court hearing that they might have and try and convince the court system. The court might be saying, look, let's set bail. And then the victim says, well, I think they are a flight risk. I think that they should get bail. The court should not have that type of an intervention where someone's pleading from an emotional perspective. It needs to be justice-based decision-making.
The ACLU says the amount of victims Marsy's Law would create would bog down the court process because every victim would have to be notified. They say it'd also be extremely costly. But if you bring those concerns to Question 1, they don't bat an eye.
We will say first and foremost that doing the right thing should never be cost prohibitive.
They say the ACLU has failed to prove Question 1 is unconstitutional and say they have bipartisan support from sheriffs to the Attorney General.
There's no conflict between the rights of the accused and the rights of victims of crime. It's not a political issue, it's a people issue that has a political process.
And the person who's backing this political process is Henry Nicholas, Marsy's brother. He spent millions of his own money getting Marsy's Law passed around the country. The problem? Henry Nicholas was recently arrested in Las Vegas on drug trafficking charges. And in 2008, he was indicted on charges of giving drugs to friends and business partners.
How many victims is he, responsible for? Are they entitled to Marsy's Law?
Well, I'm not going to comment specifically on any court case, but I would say that that's up to the courts to decide that.
People from Marsy's Law, they say it's important to enshrine victims' rights into the state constitution. That way, if a new legislature comes in or a governor with a different political party, those rights are safe because the constitution's changed.
We believe that if Question 1 passes, it could definitely change the outcome of people's individual cases.
If you put it in the Constitution, it's going to be at least 8 years before a change can be made to it.
Difficult change is exactly what victims like Angelica want. She wants the people of Nevada to remember why they're fighting for Marsy's Law in the first place.
Domestic violence in our community, it affects 1 in 3 women in Nevada, and nobody speaks about it. It is so important to support our victims.
That was Cindy Lundeberg reporting. If you want more information on Marsy's Law, head over to our website, fox5vegas.com.